Hey YouTube, it's getting kind of late for me, so I just got a brief one here for you. This is what... Oh, I better start my recorder, huh? There it goes. Trump said today, I would love to have, it open back by Easter. He's talking about the economy, talking about opening up businesses, talking about, getting the economy back on track. And, when I looked this article up, the first 8 or 10 articles were all from liberal sources, LA Times and all these other things. So in response to that, I got this in my email today, and unfortunately my email has gone completely liberal, AOL, and the title is Bill Gates on Coronavirus, Extreme Shutdown of 6 to 10 Weeks Needed. When I posted this to my Facebook, I said, he wants to destroy the economy so he can chip you. Some of the videos that I've done in the past week were about that very thing. And this is the article that I posted to Facebook. It says that philanthropist and billionaire Bill Gates believes that America needs 6 to 10 weeks of extreme shutdown of regular life to get a handle on the new coronavirus outbreak, contradicting comments from President Trump. So that thing that I just said, about Trump here. So it's very irresponsible for somebody to suggest that we can have the best of both worlds. So he's talking about the best of, social distancing and shutdowns versus having the economy roaring back to life. What we need is an extreme shutdown so that in 6 to 10 weeks, if things go well, then you can start opening back up. And here's the thing that really caught my eye. Gates noted that while isolation in populated areas along with widespread testing is difficult and disastrous for the economy, the sooner you do it in a tough way, the sooner you can undo it. So disastrous for the economy. This is what he wants. Bill Gates has a very bad poker face. When you look at the 2 videos that I showed him from TED Talks last week, he was talking about the coronavirus, and it meets the exact description of this thing that he seemed to dream up. So look here at this ID 2020. So somebody sent me this article just a couple days ago. This is from a thing called medium.com, but it's talking about ID 2020 launches the technical certification mark. This article's over a year old, but it literally calls it a mark. Following the completion of, ID 2020's technical requirements, we are proud to announce the launch of the certification mark. And you can go through all this stuff and read about that, but I'm sure you've seen this in other videos. But this ID 2020, this certification mark, ID 2020, this page here, all you got to do is hit the alliance here, and you see who owns this stuff. Okay, here we go. So the alliance partners, obviously you got Microsoft, got Rockefellers, you got this Gavi, which is a vaccine alliance. I believe that's the one that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is donated to. I thought I saw on here earlier that Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation was on here, but maybe I'm just remembering that from somewhere else. But, it's obvious who owns this thing. So, and then the last thing here, I just saw this earlier. This guy's former Prime Minister of Great Britain, Gordon Brown, calls for global government to tackle coronavirus. So these guys are really making their intentions known. And even though all this stuff's going on, they're passing all this legislation in the background. I've been watching a little bit of Richie from Boston, and he's covered a bunch of stuff on this, and just saying about how, if this is supposed to be such a critical shutdown and everything, why are they just cranking out all these laws and all this legislation? So anyway, with all that stuff to the side, Bill Gates, wants you dead. He says it's disastrous for the economy because that's what he wants, because he owns this ID 2020 certification mark. He's got money invested in it. And there's a video that's going around right now. Last I saw, it had 1.2 million views, and it basically lays out how Bill Gates wants to vaccinate you and mark you at the same time. So this is just showing what this guy wants to do in his purple shirt to, basically tag you like cattle. So with that said, some other thoughts here. I was out doing my regular job today, and I only see a handful of people on my job. I see my boss, the mechanic, maybe another truck driver or two. And, they've said stuff about social distancing, but none of us really keep it that serious. I mean, I don't know. I don't believe a lot of it, really. So on the last part of my day, I had a delivery, and I took some boulders out to a guy, and throughout the conversation, just out of habit, and also because I'm not afraid of this thing, I stuck my hand out and shook his hand. And we went through some conversation, and eventually the conversation turned to an opportunity where I could share my testimony a little bit. And I just said that, I used to drink for almost a decade, and God delivered me. And I told him a little bit about Iraq, and he was the one that opened up and said, well, the Lord must have been looking out for you. And I said, well, to be straightforward about it, that's absolutely what was going on. And as our conversation progressed, it came up that he had had a stroke. And this guy, I think he said he was 62-ish, somewhere around there. Said he had a stroke. And because the door was already open, I offered to pray for him. And my mindset is that the law and the mandates of God are higher than the law and the mandates of man. So if man says social distancing and don't touch people and be afraid of everything and all that stuff, I have a mandate from God that says differently. And right here in Matthew 10, heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead, cast out devils, freely you've received, freely give. This is what Jesus told the people that he personally trained for 3.5 years. He didn't say, if they're contagious, leave them alone. Never said any such thing anywhere in the New Testament. So I've had this set of scriptures come up regarding this. This is Matthew 12, obviously. When he was departed thence, he went into their synagogue, and behold, there was a man which had his hand withered, and they asked him, saying, Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath days, that they might accuse him? And he said unto them, What man shall there be among you that shall have one sheep, and if it fall into a pit on the Sabbath day, will he not lay hold of it and lift it out? How much then is a man better than a sheep? Wherefore is it lawful to do well on Sabbath days? Then saith to the man, Stretch forth your hand. And he stretched it forth, and it was restored whole, like as the other. Then the Pharisees went out and held a council against him, how they might destroy him. So my question is this. If I find myself standing in front of a man that just said that he had a stroke, and I know what I know about praying for healing, which way do I go with that? Do I obey the government and the news and the fear and social distancing and be afraid of people and be afraid of everything? Or do I obey God and pray for the sick? Like, what's the example there? I put a thing like this on Facebook, and I'm catching all this kind of flack like, oh, well, you're not being very wise. You're not. Who are we serving here? How much of a Christian are you? Like, is this I don't know, man. I was in the Army for 8 years. When I went to Iraq, we didn't stay and hide on the base because there's scary Iraqis out there. We went out there to them. And this is a whole different situation. I trained for years how to kill people, and now I've trained for years how to give life. And maybe I don't always get it right, but I know that as a Western culture, we've done this really crappy job of the church hiding in the building, hoping that people will come to us. When the example that Jesus gave was he went to them, and he wasn't afraid of dead people and lepers and sick people and whatever. So if people got a problem with me praying for people, then I guess I'm just not going to be very popular with some people, and I'd rather be, what's the verse about men pleasers? Give me a second and I'll dig it up here. I'm trying to type around my phone, so. Ephesians 6:6. I don't know. Here's one. Colossians 3:22. It's open to interpretation, I suppose. Servants, obey in all things your masters according to the flesh. You could say, oh, you're supposed to obey the government, not with eye service as men pleasers, but in singleness of heart, fearing God. I fear God to the point of I would rather risk my own health to obey God. Isn't that what missionaries have done in the past? Isn't that what people do because the love of God compels them to even go into Muslim communities, Hindu communities, Aborigine communities, places that people want to kill you for being Christian, and yet the love of God compels them to go into those places. If the love of God compels people to go into those places that want to kill them, why should I fear a guy that might have a cold or the flu or coronavirus? I feel like this thing is kind of divisive, but Jesus wasn't afraid of being divisive. So I'm going to go to the side of, I'm going to do what God said and screw what this government fear stuff says. If y'all don't like it, maybe you need to go read your Bible again and see what it says. Anyway, I feel like that's enough rant for one day, but Bill Gates wants you dead, so don't line up for any vaccines. Don't line up for any chips or marks or tattoos or whatever they're calling it. Go back and watch my dream that I had about the mark of the beast. The line to reject it and get killed was empty. These times are getting crazy. I mean, look at how much this has escalated in just the last couple weeks. We went from booming crazy economy to now they want to martial law, quarantine, and chip everybody, and go digital dollar, digital currency, and what's this guy? Global government. Look at how quickly it went that direction. So how close are we? Take your role as a Christian seriously. What's your objective here? Save souls or save your own butt? That's all. I'm done.